I have lost my friend. And Adath has lost its light. Yesterday, Shabbat services at Adath, I realized I can't remember the last time I did not see Saul at Adath on a Shabbos morning. And I still can't grasp that when I saw Saul this past Thursday evening at Minyan, it was Wednesday evening. Still can't grasp it. But Wednesday evening, Saul was there at Minyan, as he normally was most evenings. I still can't grasp that was the last time I saw him alive. But Saul was so much more than present at the synagogue. Saul did all of our printing. And he and I talked and emailed each other constantly. So this is just one of many, many messages that I sent to him after a particularly successful event years ago. Dear Saul, I know you don't work on behalf of Adath for thanks or public praise. Permit me to share privately my gratitude and appreciation for your work on this successful event. It was superb. You were instrumental at every step with wise counsel, energetic effort, and readiness to do anything necessary. It is a privilege to work with you. I continued, I am very proud of many things we do here at Adath. It could not happen without you, Saul. Working steadily, patiently, and sometimes not so patiently, with excellence towards success. We were always past our deadline sending our bulletin to Saul to print, and we usually had changes and additions after we had submitted it to him. Saul devoted himself, he put himself out to do the job beautifully, quickly, with a smile, and with love every time. And that's the key. Saul loved Adath. And he constantly wanted us to succeed, to be better. At least once a week, often more, Saul would come into my office or stop me after davening with a suggestion of how to make things better. Saul was a respected lay leader, a valued lay leader, because his input was superb. It always came from his heart. And he worked for our community as hard as he worked for himself. Saul was the main driver of our annual raffle every year, and so many other efforts, committees, projects, and events. But it's not only what Saul did, it's how he did it. I could expect every year until COVID, when we started planning our annual Purim Carnival, which is one of our largest and most complex annual events, I could count on Saul coming to me to say, "You know I will help, and you know I will do whatever you need." And I did know that. And everyone involved with our synagogue knew that as well. Saul was and will remain a role model at Adath in many ways. One of the most significant is the way Saul applied himself to helping other people. When one of our beloved members, Lazer Lapidus of blessed memory, could no longer come on his own to synagogue, which he had done regularly for the previous 95 years of his life, Saul brought him regularly and took him home and did so much more for him. And a few years later, the same thing happened with Leon Konkel of blessed memory, when he needed help. And for so many others, not just bringing them to shul, but helping them with shopping, with doctor's appointments, with anything that they needed. In Saul's last days, though of course Saul and no one else could have imagined it would have been his last days, Saul was deeply involved in helping one of our members who was going through a hard time. And you would not believe this. Almost no one knows this. But you would not believe not only the time Saul gave to helping others, but also the dignity he protected in others, the empathy and patience he showed for others in need. And Saul did this when it was difficult, when it was too much, when others would have and did give up. Saul did not give up. I learned from Saul what true chesed is. True kindness and compassion and caring. Saul is my Rebbe, my teacher, my mentor in chesed. I also learned from Saul what it means to have a real connection with God. What it means to pray, to really pray. Saul told me that he prayed with talis and tefillin every day from the time of his bar mitzvah. Last year, a woman in our community a woman who knows everyone well in the Adath community. She sent a message to a small group. Her daughter was about to have a very serious and dangerous surgery. And the subject line of the email read, "My davening crew." And the message in the email was, "Can I ask you guys to please pray for a safe and successful surgery for my daughter?" She sent this message to Rabbi Alex, which makes perfect sense because Rabbi Alex is a tzaddik, a righteous person. If anything ever happened to me, I would want Rabbi Alex praying on my behalf. She sent it to me, and I think I was just the figurehead because it happens that at Adath my title is rabbi. I do not think my prayers are so valuable. And she sent it to Saul. That was her davening crew when her daughter's life was at stake. Those who know Saul well know how connected he is to God. And Baruch Hashem, thank God, the operation was a success. Finally, I must address a question that is on the mind of many of us, if not all of us. How could God have allowed this to happen? Saul was too good, too needed by his family and by his community, too healthy to be taken from us so suddenly. I have no answer. None of us can even imagine the shock and grief Ellie and her family are going through. In recent months, Saul's primary subject of conversation with me was worrying about Ellie, telling me repeatedly how wonderful she is, how much he loves her. So why, God, did you let this happen? I don't know. But Donna told me what Saul would say if he could speak to us now. And when she said this to me, I immediately realized how true it is. Saul would say to me, "Don't question God. My life was not too short." Saul would say, 17 years ago I had a heart attack. That's when I thought my time had come. And every day of the last 17 years has been a gift for which I am grateful to God. God has been good to me. That is what Saul would say. To which I will simply add, in this too, Saul is my teacher, our mentor, our role model. May his memory create blessing for his beautiful family and for all those who have been privileged to know and love him for generations to come.